thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Irado, and with me, as always, is a man so good that if the Avengers were real, he would totally get recruited, Mike Vandebogart.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners for tuning in once again to Locations Unknown. Just a couple of quick updates here. First, new Patreon shout-outs, a lot of them this week. Jennifer Pisano, Jacob Lopez, Rashawn Duncan, Joanna Arbach, Joshua Fairchild, Kelly Ballard, Donna Steffi, and Brent Chulewski.
Thank you, all the new patrons. You guys are awesome.
Thank you for having easy last names, too. That's always appreciated. But thank you so much. We will be moving into new studio space here in a few months.
Yep.
And your help will allow us to really start building it out from day one with new equipment and
what's funny is I don't think we told general audience yet, so you just broke the news.
Oh, did I break the news?
That's fine, but we can do it.
Oh.
Yep. We're like a couple episodes away from it being in there.
Oh. So well, we could cut this out.
No, leave it. It's funnier.
I totally forgot that we hadn't told.
We only told patron supporters.
Yeah.
So this is actually great advertisement. You're going to hear new cool things first on Patreon before they actually happen.
Unless I just totally have a stroke.
Yeah. And, so we're got a studio space that we're going to be moving into April 1st. And we got to do something special.
Yeah.
We'll probably do something, especially for the Patreon subscribers. We'll do
a 24-hour live stream.
I was thinking, because we said we were going to do that, and
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that. We might have to.
Yeah.
We might have to do.
I totally didn't mean to do that.
No, that's fine. You know me. I don't care.
Yeah.
What a better, not a better way to do it. So
I just nonchalantly said, about the studio.
So
we're moving in. It's right downtown Milwaukee, prime location.
Oh yeah. We got a pretty good deal from a supporter of the show.
Yeah.
That's hooking us up, and I mean it's a little ridiculous almost.
It's too much space.
It's too much space, and
for us.
It's going to be us doing a podcast where we are on the first floor of a main building, downtown Milwaukee, corner office with windows is where we're going to be recording. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. We'll have to do a big, like you said, a live stream for 24 hours.
We'll have to figure out a time. We might not be able to do it for the first one because you have a new baby and all that, your stuff,
well, we could rotate in guest hosts.
Oh yeah, well, we got to plan it. It's got to be. We're gonna have to have people.
Yeah,
it could just be
Andy could fill in for a few hours.
Yeah, we'll just do randos, local friends of ours who are people in the community. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. 24 hours is a long time.
Yeah,
we'll have to bring TVs.
We don't have that much interesting things.
It's gonna be a couple hours of video game streaming podcast probably.
Who knows?
Yeah, it'll just be it's the things we like.
We could just fall asleep, and it'll just be us sleeping.
Some of those make money. All right, let's continue.
Yeah, continue. So we also, if you want to call the show, leave us episode suggestions. Complain
24 hour podcast suggestions.
Yeah, well, and with being on a live stream for 24 hours, you can actually call the show live.
Ooh.
Because I do have the ability to answer these calls, but I have it just set.
Yeah, it's got to be on a
voicemail.
computer, right?
No.
Oh.
It can come through to a phone.
All right.
Call our number, 208-391-6913. If you want to support the show, there's many ways you can do it. Patreon, YouTube memberships, premium subscriptions on Apple. You can also buy stuff from our stores on Facebook and our website. If you can't support monetarily, just tell your friends and family about Locations Unknown.
Yeah, spread the word. That helps a lot. We our last episode was our largest episode ever already in 7 days, and we get ad revenue from that. So just telling everyone that that they must listen to our show helps also.
They have to listen.
They absolutely must.
Yes. So that's all I had.
All right, everybody, let's get up and gear out. I said that backwards. Let's gear up and get out to explore locations unknown. With over 52 million acres, the U.S. National Park System is home to some of the most breathtaking natural features on the planet. Tens of millions enjoy these parks every year. Join us this week for an installment of National Park Cold Cases as we explore Glacier National Park. So this installment of the Cold Cases in National Parks is near and dear to my heart. Probably yours too, Mike. Glacier is one of my favorite parks. It's large. That was the first time, I think our first trip was the first time I did that many miles in the backcountry.
Yeah, no, Glacier.
On foot.
Yeah, Glacier is one of my favorite parks. We've never actually done an episode on Glacier, so that's why I kind of picked it this week for the Cold Cases.
Oh, yeah.
But no, this is great because we both have hiked the park. Joe's hiked it multiple times. So we have firsthand experience of probably a lot of the places that these people have gone missing in.
Yeah, I was just flipping through some of the photos before the show. I'll put them up on the screen later when Mike's talking. But I actually have a picture of a missing person that I forgot that I took.
The flyer, not the actual person.
Yeah, not the actual person. The flyer of the missing person, because last time I went, we got briefed, as we always talk about, that the trail we were on, that gentleman had gone missing. So I think it gave me, obviously, the idea of, holy cow, we never covered that show. I think I thought about it while I was out there and then got back, and then life hit me in the face multiple times, and I got a concussion from life hitting me in the face and forgot about it. Yeah. So without further ado, we will go into Glacier National Park. It is 1.013 million acres. It is the 12th largest park. It is in Montana and was established on May 11th, 1910. This is according to 2022 numbers, which might be still a little low. 2.9 million visitors a year, puts it 31st for most visited. And according to archaeological evidence, Native Americans first arrived in Glacier area some 10,000 years ago. The earliest occupants with lineage to current tribes were the Flathead or the Salish and the Kootenai, the Shoshone, and the Cheyenne. The Blackfeet lived on the eastern slopes of what later became the park, as well as the Great Plains immediately to the east. The park's region provided the Blackfeet shelter from the harsh winter winds of the plains, allowing them to supplement their traditional bison hunts with other game meat. Today, the Blackfeet Indian Reservation borders the park in the east, while the Flathead Indian Reservation is located west and south of the park. So here's some interesting facts about Glacier. The park's nickname is the Crown of the Continent. It has also been called America's Switzerland, thanks to the jagged mountain peaks that somewhat resemble the Alps. It is a really beautiful, aggressive mountain range.
Yeah.
The park suffers from devastating wildfires. Fires burn through the park every summer and sometimes during other seasons, which each year now more severe than the last. Fires in recent years have destroyed homes, historic cabins, and the 100-year-old Sperry Chalet, which has fortunately since been reconstructed.
I don't remember when we were there, at least when I was there, fires, like when I was in Yosemite, you could tell the area we walked through had just been hit by a fire. But
yeah, we hiked through that small section, remember, where like it was still pencil sticks?
Yeah.
But a lot of the smaller growth was already coming back, so it was still green.
Yeah.
It wasn't like freshly charred. The park had 80 glaciers when it opened. That's significant because now, just over a century later, it only has 26. In addition to being a national park, Glacier is also a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, an international dark sky park, part of the Waterton Glacier International Peace Park, the world's first, part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, home to 6 National Historic Landmarks. It took 14 years to build Going to the Sun Road. The park's iconic road was under construction from 1919 all the way until 1933, and even then it wasn't fully paved until 1952. The park straddles the Continental Divide. The Continental Divide runs from Alaska to Mexico and goes straight through Glacier National Park on its way. Going to the Sun Road crosses the Continental Divide at Logan Pass, where the elevation is 6,646 feet. So we'll talk about climate. Glacier's weather is highly variable and can be extreme. In winter, most of the park is covered in several feet of snow, and there are many cloudy, snowy days. That's where they close Going to the Sun Road for a majority of the year, actually, because it's not even worth snow plowing. In spring, rainy days and cooler temperatures are common even through the months of June. Hot days and cool nights are normal throughout July and August. Hikers setting out on a warm summer day should expect changing conditions and bring rain gear and extra layers of clothing.
We know that from personal experience.
Oh, yeah.
Rain
it would go
crazy.
from super sunny and hot to rainy, then back, and then rainy again. A lot of your stuff got wet.
Yep.
And it was worse, too, because like the sun would come out, and you're like, all right, I'd hang all my stuff out to dry, and then a rain cloud would come and just re-soak it all, and you're like, God dang it.
Yeah.
In fall, temperatures begin cooling down, and snow may occur even at lower elevations as early as mid-September. Packing extra layers is the key to a comfortable visit regardless of the season. That is 100% true. Lots of layers. In the driest corners of the park, along the northeast and northwest edges, rainfall averages 23 inches a year, while the lowlands of the west side receive about 30 inches of precipitation on average. Since moisture-laden air is forced up into high elevations at the Continental Divide and cools, the annual precipitation average jumps to 100 inches or more in isolated mountain Krux. I don't know how to say it. Cirques du Soleil. Cirques. Yep, I'm going to yell that for that one. Snowfall settles to around 16-foot average snowpack. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's, single-story home. That's taller than a single-story home. Yeah. So that's the average.
It's almost a 2-story building.
Yeah, I think I've seen images on their Instagram of like they'll get snow drifts that are like 30, 40 feet.
Isn't that Glacier where they have the big like trucks with the huge like snow blowers on the front of them?
I think there, and they do that in the Rockies too.
Yeah. I mean, isn't Glacier technically part of the Rocky Mountains?
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I meant Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, the Colorado Rockies.
I just always refer to it as the Rockies, but yeah. The east side gets less overall precipitation and is prone to high winds. Downslope gusts are often 50 miles per hour or more, sometimes reaching 100 miles an hour. The winter Chinook or snow eater winds regularly create a temporary spring, raising temperatures over 30 degrees Fahrenheit in just minutes. If cold Arctic air pools deep enough on the east side to spill over the divide and collide with Pacific moisture, raging blizzards can result. One dumped 44 inches of snow in a single day.
That's insane.
Holy cow. That's so much snow. Do you remember that video? I think I posted a video on our Facebook of the dude who was hanging onto the flagpole on a mountaintop, I think it was, and he was like being blown vertically. I think that was Glacier.
No, but I mean, if you get 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, you won't be able to stand out there. Glacier National Park is home to 26 glaciers, 175 mountains, 762 lakes, 200 waterfalls, 563 streams. That's over 2,865 miles of streams in the park alone.
That's a lot.
Yes. The whole park is dominated by the mountains. If you've ever been there, it's mostly mountains, and you're basically finding paths through them. And it was largely carved out by the last ice age.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. These glaciers have largely disappeared over the last 12,000 years. Evidence of widespread glacial action is found throughout the park in the forms of U-shaped valleys. I got to look this word up because I can't pronounce it. It's like Krux. Cirques. You want to keep reading while I pull up the translator?
Outflow lakes like fingers from the base of the highest peaks.
Oh, what's the one that we went to where it's like 5 waterfalls that are glacial runoff that go into, isn't it like Glacial Lake?
Yeah.
There's a picture of us. I'll pull up when you're talking because it's me, you, Ben, Shay. I think it was just me, you, Ben, and Shay.
Yeah.
We're there. And It was beautiful. The water was pristine.
Yeah, so the highest point in the park is Mount Cleveland, coming in at 10,479 feet, and the lowest point is Flathead River at 3,150 feet.
There we go.
Cirques.
It is Cirques. You're right, like Cirque du Soleil.
Cirques.
Okay. So, my bad. I'll jump back in. Types of animals. There are black and grizzly bears. We got to see a couple of the grizzlies.
Got to camp with the special forces of the Park Service.
Yes. Officer Peach.
Yeah, Officer Peach.
Officer Peach, and he was like the hardened, like it was like Little John. Like the perfect name for him, because he was like the rusty, like I've been up here for years. And his name's Officer Peach.
I just remember him walking up to us with a 12-gauge shotgun. What are you guys doing here?
Yeah, what the hell are you boys doing here? I'm like, we have permits.
Yeah.
We have permits. We should tell that story at the end.
We will.
We'll make you hang on. You got to listen to the whole end. We'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
There are bighorn sheep, elk, lynx, mountain lions, wolverines, and eagles.
Those are just some of the animals in the park.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Yeah.
Water, so you got to watch out for hypothermia and giardia if you're looking out for stuff like that. Giardia is when you don't treat your water and you have to go to the bathroom a lot. I call it number 3.
Yeah.
So the other thing you got to look out for is bears. There are grizzlies in the park, and because people do come through, they have been known to attack. That's the story we'll tell you later, where we are approached because a bear was going into people's tents, looking for food and going after people. So you do want to avoid running on the trails because they can scare bears, especially if you're on switchbacks. You turn a corner and scare a grizzly, you will not win.
No.
You want to carry bear spray and make lots of noise especially when you're going around blind corners. You want to, hey bear, hey bear, things like that. Bells.
Our group never had a problem being quiet. So,
yes. Yeah. You do want to secure your food and garbage. If you can hang it, that's great. Otherwise, if you are at backcountry sites, a lot of them have the food cages. You can lock it up.
Yeah.
You just don't want it on you because you do not want to wake up to a grizzly sniffing in your tent.
No.
No, sir. With mountain lions, it's the same kind of anywhere. You don't want to be alone, especially if you're tinier. Make noise because they don't typically want to mess with you, and you do have kids, keep them in between 2 larger adults.
Yeah.
You look out for ticks, and rodents can get into your stuff and make you sick, so you want to look out
well,
for that stuff
the
too.
rodents in Glacier actually also have been known to carry hantavirus. So you can get that by inhaling like particle forms of rodent droppings and urine. So
yeah, if they're in your food, they're going to be leaving urine and droppings, and then you don't want the hanta virus.
You don't.
You don't. Oh God, I told you I have 6 kids.
Yeah.
Dad jokes just come naturally to me. Terrain. So many accidents occur when people fall after stepping off trails or roadsides or by venturing into very steep slopes. You want to stay on the designated trails. This is true. There are several trails around there that have very steep cliff drop-offs.
Yep.
They even have like hoses. Remember, it was like old hose bolted to the wall to help you hang on.
Well, and you don't want to we've said this before, you go off trail, you start, wrecking the natural environment there.
Yes.
Which a lot of times sometimes in parks, you'll see areas that are roped off and they'll be regrowing the natural habitat. So just stay on the trail.
Yep. Stay on the trail. It makes it more beautiful for everyone doing it.
Yeah.
Snow and ice, snowfields and glaciers present serious hazards. Snow bridges may conceal deep crevasses on glaciers or large hidden cavities under snowfields and collapse under the weight of an unsuspecting hiker. So you don't ever want to slide on the snowbanks. People often lose control and slide into rocks or trees. And exercise caution around any snowfield. That's really a big issue for people who don't live in mountainous areas.
Yeah.
You have no idea how steep something is until you get moving on it on ice, and then you can't stop.
My worry, too, is you're sliding down a snowfield, and what if there's a rock that's just hidden
right
by
in your...
just a half an inch of snow, and you just hit that thing?
You discover it with your bum. Yeah. That's not fun. I think everyone's seen those videos of skiers when they fall on mountains and they just spin uncontrollably.
Yeah.
That can happen to you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require too much steepness if it's icy and snowy.
No.
So overall difficulty, it can be difficult. It can be easy. There's so much to offer at the park.
Yeah. When we hiked it, I think we did some harder stuff, but around the visitor centers, there's lots of easy hiking for maybe people that are elderly or people with really little kids or anybody with a disability. If they're in a wheelchair, there's probably, I think there's several trails that are paved that you can that are handicap accessible. So
yeah, that's what's nice about the bigger parks is they can truly cater to all needs,
Yep.
So that's good. So you want to jump into characters?
Yeah. So
of the story,
we've got three different cases we're going to talk about, and two of these cases go back almost 100 years. So information's a little sparse, but our first case goes all the way back to August 25th of 1924. Joseph and William Whitehead, who were brothers. Joseph was age 29 and William was 22. And I actually have a poster from back in the day that has some more information on, like how tall they were. So Joseph was 5'11", 175 pounds. He had gray eyes, dark brown hair. This is kind of funny, the language they used back then. He had a ruddy complexion. I have no clue what that means.
A runny complexion?
Ruddy, R-U-D-D-Y.
Ruddy complexion.
Yeah.
This is what the internet's for. You keep talking. I'm going to find out what the heck that means.
He wore glasses with dark rims. His brother, William Whitehead, was age 22. He was 5'11" and a half.
Having a healthy red color.
Huh.
So
that's a ruddy complexion. I've never heard that before in my life, but
think of like a old sea dog, like just a captain that like might be alcohol related.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I immediately think. Because like when I was a paramedic, and you walk up on an old dude where he kind of looks like Santa Claus,
yeah,
you're like, ooh, he likes whiskey.
Yeah,
that was the immediate thought.
So his brother had brown eyes, dark brown hair, dark complexion. Also wore dark rim glasses. Here's what they were wearing. They were wearing gray knickers, gray wool shirts.
This totally was 100 years ago. They're ruddy wearing their knickers.
Yeah. High tan laced hiking shoes, soft felt hats. They carried light packs. Both wore sweaters, one gray, the other tan. They were sons of Miss Dora B. Whitehead of Chicago. This was interesting. The family at the time offered a $1,700 reward for information on their disappearance, which in today's money,
$1,700,
which in today's money is $30,000. So
Jeez.
They did come from, it sounds like a wealthy family. So, and we'll get into more of their description later on that would kind of made me chuckle a little, just because it's 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So they were both said to be brilliant young men. This is right here. One of the news articles from the time called them well-groomed, immaculately dressed city boys with a reserved demeanor.
There you go.
So, Joseph was a graduate of the Lewis Institute and a former lieutenant in the Army Ordnance Division. At the time of his disappearance, he was an engineer for Universal Battery in Chicago. William was a student at MIT and was planning to graduate in the following year. So
they're smart.
Both real smart guys.
Yeah.
So I don't have an exact timeline of when they left.
Well-groomed, immaculately dressed city boys with a reserved demeanor.
Yeah.
Stop supposing and start figuring. Horseradish.
So the brothers were not quite, we don't know the timeline specifically on when they left Chicago for home, but the brothers left their mother's home in Chicago and traveled across the U.S. heading towards Glacier National Park. And I believe they didn't have a car, so this would have been by train. As they traveled, they wrote their mother daily about their trip. In the week leading up to their disappearance, the brothers had been hiking throughout the park, going on hikes to Iceberg Lake, Grinnell Lake, and Cracker Lake.
We went to Grinnell Lake.
Yeah, we did go to Grinnell Lake. They had been traveling in the park by car, boat, and horseback from Glacier Park Lodge to Granite Park Chalet. They had planned to hike 20 miles from the chalet to Lewis Hotel, which is now called Lake McDonald Lodge, on August 24th of 1924. And then they planned to board the Great Northern Railroad's Oriental Limited back to Chicago. So on August 20th of 1924, Joseph wrote home, and this would turn out to be his last correspondence with his mom. He wrote, "We are enjoying ourselves very much and taking no chances of injuring ourselves. Don't worry, Mother. We won't get into any danger." So now fast forward to August 24th of 1924. 4 days later, in the early morning of Sunday, August 24th, The brothers walked away from Granite Park Chalet and hiked into the forest on their way to Lewis Hotel at Lake McDonald. They were spotted for the last time dressed in hiking knickers and smiling just 10 miles from their final destination. So that would be the last time anyone would have seen them. Fast forward now to September 1st of 1924, when neither of the boys got off the train in Chicago to greet their mom. Miss Whitehead called the MPS and asked them to search, which the MPS complied. The following weeks, the park was searched extensively and was, at the time, said to have been the largest search in national park history. Lake McDonald was searched and all paths near the shoreline were checked. It was stated at the time the park would have been packed with tourists, and if they had been injured near one of the trails, somebody would have heard it. Per the NPS, there were no reports of distress. Several days after the search had started, the park stated that they would utilize all available rangers, volunteers, government workers in a systematic search of every possible location where they could be. Throughout the search, so this is interesting. These guys were obviously from they were well off. Mm-hmm. And the media kind of picked up on this and said, we're kind of pressuring the Park Service, like, you have to find these boys. Like, it's unacceptable if you don't find them. Even people throughout the U.S. government were contacting the park and saying you need to keep looking, all the any resources you need, like, use them to find them.
Sure.
So that was kind of the general consensus. And one of the articles said that it was because they were highly educated and in good physical condition and should not have gone missing.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's why we need to find them.
So fast forward to September 16th, and this is a statement from the Interior Secretary F.M. Goodwin. 13 rangers, 2 famous Indian guides, and 7 tried mountaineers were out for more than 2 weeks. Secretary F.M. Goodwin reported on September 16th of that year. There never has been a search in the national park conducted with more vigor and effort. So, very interesting. It gets much more interesting. I can't believe this next part. So, after almost 6 weeks of searching, the MPS had found nothing. Miss White had become so frustrated with the search that she contacted President Coolidge to ask for more assistance. After contacting the president, the FBI, at the direction of J. Edgar Hoover, was assigned to the case and pursued many leads, which eventually led nowhere and deemed not credible.
Jeez, the country was so much smaller back then. My kids went missing. Get the president.
Yeah, and it was stated Hoover personally oversaw the FBI search for the brothers and almost every month filed detailed progress reports with the director of the MPS or the Secretary of Interior. So can you imagine a time where a family member goes missing and you're just like, all right, well, call the president.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, get the president on the line.
And the FBI director just takes up personal interest in your case and oversees the investigation. I mean, that'd be unheard of.
Yeah.
In today's, I just found that really interesting. So fast forward now to March 14th of 1925. So almost a year and a half or half a year later, the Whitehead family distributed 25,000 posters of the brothers explaining the circumstances and offering an award of $1,700, which would be $30,000 in 2022. Unfortunately, the posters failed to generate any new leads on the case. On August 19th of 1925, Miss Whitehead and her daughter traveled to Glacier National Park and were briefed by the park superintendent on the search efforts. The Park Service explained that the black bears living in the area at the time were not dangerous and they did not believe animals were involved in their disappearance. An article in the Chicago Daily Tribune from August 19th of 1925 stated, mountaineers whom with Miss Whitehead and her daughter talked were convinced that the two had met with violence. And a lot of people thought that they may have stumbled upon bootleggers. Though I don't understand what bootleggers would be doing in the middle of Glacier. I mean,
where are they delivering?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like it's an easy location to get to and from.
Yeah.
But, that was the height of Prohibition. When did Prohibition run from?
I will look it up.
I feel like 1925 was probably like... Didn't Prohibition end in the 30s?
1920 to January 17th, 1920 to December 5th, 1933.
So 1925, it was kind of like the heat of Prohibition at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that not out of the.
If there's small mountain towns that need booze, maybe they're taking trails.
And maybe they didn't. There was no aerial surveillance back then. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere, it'd be a great way to hide. So final comment on this: Dora Whitehead believed the conjecture, writing the Secretary of Interior. I want my 2 sons, dead or alive. Surely I'm not asking too much. They belong to me. I have a right to them. My 2 sons were murdered or kidnapped in a national park, and I am pleading with the government of the United States to find them. So the mom was convinced they were murdered in the park. And a lot of people at the time in the media thought that it could have been, they stumbled upon organized crime related to bootlegging. Very interesting case. I had never heard of this before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's over almost 100 years old. So it's... it's weird when you go to the National Park Service cold case page, they have there's 20 or 25, 29 people on there. But, this is a cold case. I mean, they weren't found. Why don't they, I don't know why they don't list these, but, okay. Moving on to our next case, 2 out of 3 here. This one takes us to August 13th of 1934. So still going back quite a ways. Gentleman's name was Frederick H. Loomley. He went missing, like I said, August 13th of 1934. He was a male, age 27. I don't, unfortunately, have any more description about him. I couldn't find any additional information. He was an Ohio State University assistant professor, so age 27 is already a professor, probably a pretty smart guy. So,
yeah.
Again, we don't have detailed information on exactly when he started hiking, but Frederick set off on a solo hike from Goat Haunt, a Goat Haunt camp at the south end of Upper Waterton Lake to the Waterton town site. On August 12th of 1934, a postcard of Gunsight Lake written the day before he had disappeared read, "Dear Kay, here is the drink that satisfies. I have been having early morning, afternoon, and evening cocktails of the one and only Aqua Pura Alemany Glacier. But swimming is out. 2 cold baths have sufficed to prove to me that uncleanliness is preferable to uncomfortableness anytime." So, very proper postcard. So, obviously, he went on a solo hike and disappeared. So after his disappearance, this comes from the National Park Service, 28 experienced woodsmen searched the trails, a boat patrolled the shores of Waterton Lake, and climbers checked nearby Mount Cleveland. The search continued until winter set in, then resumed in the summer of 1935. Frederick's father also offered a $500 reward, but the Ohio State University professor was never found. Again, on this case, the FBI and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police helped the investigation, but neither were able to find any clues to solve the disappearance. So this gentleman, again, went missing. So 2 cases pretty close to each other. Our third case, we're going to jump forward to, and I don't know, is there anything you want to share?
No, I'm flipping through photos, just look at how clear the water is. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
It's just pristine.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing I took away from this park is just it's pure pristine. I mean, you look at Google Earth. Look at it's Google Earth image. When you look at it, you're like, look at how awesome those mountains look.
Yeah.
It really is obviously better than that, but it's like this aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
can you find pictures of the lakes that were mentioned? So like Upper Waterton Lake.
Upper Waterton.
And what are some of the other lakes I mentioned? Cracker Lake. Grinnell Lake, too, since we were there.
Yeah, I pulled one of them up was pictures from Grinnell Lake.
Okay. Oh, and then Gunsight Lake. I've never heard of any of these lakes other than Grinnell. Yeah, I think Grinnell's isn't that near a visitor center?
Well, yeah, because it's the Grinnell Glacier, and that's why we went. Like the Grinnell Glacier feeds into it, and I think that's it. if I'm remembering appropriately, let's see if I even have the picture from that one, from our trip.
Yeah.
It's one of these, because this is a picture, if you zoom in, that's you. Like, that's how big this photo is.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea. Like, look at, that's you. I think that's Ben. And you just go out. It's so vast. It's just huge, because that's a glacier up in there that feeds one of the lakes. You can see the waterfall kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, look at there's Shea. Way over there. This is an example, too, for those watching, how steep. It doesn't look that steep. If that was ice and snow, you could just slide and just not stop till you hit the hidden rock with your bum, or you get all the way to the bottom. That's where, like, it's so beautiful, but it can be dangerous in the winter.
Yeah.
For those listening, we're just looking at like almost like a U, and this trail goes around this internal U, and you could see like this is like all carved out from the big glaciers from the Ice Age.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah. So,
all right.
So far, theories on the first two cases I've talked about. Any ideas or...
With it being so long ago, I definitely feel like it's more not being prepared.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
like, or just lack of gear. You're out in the wilderness 100 years ago compared to out in the wilderness now.
Yeah.
It's rugged when we went backcountry.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what it was like when they were out there.
I think with the first case, and we'll get into the third case in a minute, I find it strange that two people disappeared on the same hike. That makes me think that like some kind of criminal activity is more likely.
Or an accident.
With both of them.
If one falls, the other one tries to help them.
I mean, we've been doing a lot of cases. Have we ever done a case where, other than that father and son that went, and that only happened because the father was missing, and then the son went to look for him and got lost.
Yeah.
We've never had a case where two individuals have gone missing at the same time and never were found.
Yeah.
It's unusual. Usually what happens is people be in a big group and one person will veer off and do their own thing and then goes missing.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they never return.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps they did come into contact with some bootleggers and were both, murdered.
Or grizzlies. And you don't have the technology and... Well, irony is they said they got like local Indian guides to go look for them. I mean, that was probably the best thing you could have. I'm sure those people had the whole park mapped like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
And they found no trace of them.
Now, and obviously search techniques back, 100 years ago probably don't compare to, a sophisticated search in 2023. They don't have any aerial surveillance. It didn't sound like in that first case that they used any kind of dogs. These people, none of them are probably trained in probably back then they didn't even train in professional search and rescue techniques.
I'm sure they got the professional trackers out, and that was like, okay. And then if anyone else volunteers, it's like, all right, here's where we think they were, go.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if they had gone missing in 2022, maybe they would have been found with today's technology. Maybe not. I think the second case, a solo hiker, that's more in line with a lot of cases we've covered. And, it's so long ago, we don't have a lot of details of the case.
Yeah.
But, in that letter, he's talking about swimming in cold glacial lakes. I mean,
I tried.
Yeah, I've tried it.
It's so cold.
It's brutal. I mean, maybe he suffered a medical emergency swimming in one of those lakes and drowned,
or just got hypothermia.
Yeah,
on the way out, or was out too long.
I think my theory on the second one is something water related. Only because we don't have a lot of information, but he talks about swimming, even though he says he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
it means he has done it. And he's hiking alone. We don't know what kind of gear he had with him. My theory on the second one is probably something, and there's so many lakes in Glacier. What do we say, 200? Or I think a lot of them are unnamed even. I don't think they're all named.
Yeah, they'll be like the names that people come up with when they're out of ideas.
People just give them names?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I read that there's a lot of lakes in Glacier that are officially unnamed. 762 lakes.
Yeah. So, and that's where was I with you on the trip where we were talking to the trail guide and they were talking about their secret lakes that they go to?
It might have been Glacier.
Yeah, I know it was Glacier. I just didn't know if it was with you or the last group I went with, but we were talking to some trail guides that basically said like the people that work there know routes and things to lakes that are unnamed that no one knows how to get to.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, because there's so much space that's like their little, where they get away.
Yeah, so perhaps he went off trail, went swimming in one of these unnamed lakes, and that was the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, so far, case number one, I think it was foul play, just because it's unusual to have two people go missing on the same trail, or maybe a grizzly attack.
Yeah.
Case two, I think it's something water related.
I'm with you on that one.
In that day and age, they're not going to have the technology to do a thorough search of the lake bottoms.
Yeah.
And with 762 lakes, I mean, it'd be a crapshoot probably picking which ones. So,
yeah, and that was September, so it's starting to get cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
our third case, we're bringing it back to more recent times. So the gentleman of our third case, his name was Patrick Whalen. He went missing on November 20th of the year 2000. He was a male, aged 33. He was 6 feet, 155 pounds. He had blonde strawberry hair, hazel eyes with wireframe glasses. A little bit about his personality from friends. This guy sounded like just a amazing, like special human being. He loved to help people working with migrant farmhands and hiking to raise money for cystic fibrosis research. Before leaving Ohio, he volunteered for Habitat Humanity and the Cleveland Food Bank. He once took a panhandler into a sandwich shop and bought him a meal. He also joined University Hospital, but quit in 1992 for what he called a hike for life along the Pacific Crest Trail with an old friend from St. Anne. Mounting snow and fatigue prompted the friends to cut short the 2,600-mile trek. So occupation, hobbies, he graduated from St. Anne's grade school, and he got a bachelor's degree in nursing. He was a registered nurse, studying to become a doctor in naturopathy. Did I say that right? N-A-T-U-R.
Naturopathy?
Naturopathy, which stresses natural health care.
We're going to throw it in the old translate machine that we pay thousands of dollars for. It is... Oh, I got to turn the volume up. How about that?
Naturopathy.
Naturopathy.
I said naturopathy. Oops.
Yep.
So
that's close.
Patrick loved to hike. He actually, his friends said he earned the title survivalist due to hiking thousands of miles along the Pacific Crest Trail and spending hundreds of hours in various natural parks. So, guy, I would say, is experienced. He had been to Glacier many times, and enough times that rangers actually remembered various contacts with him where they said he seemed normal, no issues. So very interesting individual. So in early November 2000, Patrick's father had contacted the U.S. Park Service explaining that he hadn't heard from his son and was worried that something might be wrong. The park told him that they didn't have any recent encounters with him, but would keep his name on file. So on November 2nd of 2000, while driving his truck on U.S. Highway 89, Patrick actually hit a deer. Witnesses in the area saw Patrick put a pillow under the deer's head, place a blanket over it, and then leave food near its mouth.
Jeez.
It did appear, though, that Patrick had abandoned his truck and left to backpack into Glacier National Park, which I find strange. I don't know why he would do that, and it was unclear from reports if the truck was still in operating condition, but the truck was towed by orders of the local police and was impounded on November 3rd of 2000. So for half a year, there was no activity regarding Patrick in any NPS reports until May 10th of 2001, when his father once again contacted the Park Service because he hadn't heard anything. So now it gets a little interesting. On May 27th of 2001, Park Ranger Michelle Madland was on a routine hike with a former park employee in the Atlantic Creek campground area when she came across something strange, according to her report. She stated that she had found abandoned backpacking equipment in a campsite. She stated that she found a tent that was partially falling down but had obviously been there throughout the winter. It was a blue REI brand tent that had all the zippers closed and no tears in the fabric, and the tent was sealed. Michelle looked inside the tent and found everything you'd expect in a tent for someone who is sleeping in it except the person. The ranger found a pair of boots, wool hat, mittens, a pack, underwear, shorts, and other clothing, toiletries, a stove, food, water filtration system, and a commercial driver's license belonging to Patrick. So they found Patrick's camp. What was missing was an empty buck knife case. So his buck knife was missing, which is interesting. So Michelle and her coworker took photos of the site and then hung the food from ropes so the bears couldn't get it. She also stated in her report that it looked like the bears or any other animals hadn't disturbed the site at that point. She was deep enough in the park that she couldn't establish radio contact with HQ, so they hiked out of the area and contacted other backcountry rangers. On May 28th, additional rangers hiked out to the site and started an inside-out search that consisted of an extensive investigation of the site and a detailed search of the area. Rangers also learned that Patrick's truck, which at this point had now been towed over 6 months ago, was still in the tow lot. His truck was searched, but no additional clues were found. On May 30th, cadaver dogs were brought into the Atlantic Creek campground area and were searching for any indication that a body was in the area. Sadly, after several hours of searching, the dog handlers were convinced that there was no body in the area. So park officials do not believe Patrick wintered at the camp, but instead point to evidence suggesting the site had been abandoned since last fall. Patrick was also not issued a backcountry permit to camp in Glacier, which is required by park policy. So this is interesting too. Park and tribal investigators were told by Patrick's friends and family that the missing man had exhibited symptoms of unusual and potentially obsessive behavior, including paranoia, which may have played a role in his disappearance. So,
that's too bad.
There's not a lot of information on this case on the internet, sadly, and it's still an open case.
Yeah, one of the first images is from our website.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's what I looked at the second image and I'm like, oh, we already have a...
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
So a very strange case. If he was suffering from mental health issues, that makes more sense.
That would, yeah.
I don't understand why, if you hit a deer, you would leave your car and just, go off into the woods.
Yeah, that sounds like something that someone would do that's not in the right state of mind, unfortunately.
What's interesting, though, is what was left in his tent, in my mind. So pretty much all of his gear except his knife were in his tent, which makes me wonder, was he sleeping one night and got startled and grabbed his knife and went outside to see what was going on and then never came back to the tent?
Or went to go cut some wood up or something like that.
But even his boots were left in the tent. So it makes me think it was in a panic, something happened and he panicked. And if he was suffering from paranoia, he, for some reason...
You're by yourself out there.
Yeah.
I get paranoid when I'm out there.
And if he could have been out there for weeks, months, we don't know how long he was at the site. They don't think he wintered it over, but they don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's winter, so the bears are, hibernating, but it's pretty unusual if you had food just sitting on the ground that it would survive undisturbed for an entire winter. You'd think rodents or something
would eat it,
come in there and try to eat it.
That's so wild.
So you got to think that he abandoned his campsite after, I would say, wouldn't it make sense if he abandoned after winter set in? Because if it's still fall and, the fall too, if I remember correctly, bears are, scouring for food, getting ready for the winter.
Yeah, they wouldn't let a meal go away.
Yeah, if there's food just sitting in a tent.
Yeah, if they're hibernating, you still have your, squirrels and what's the marmots.
Even the deer in the park. Remember, someone told us that you didn't want to leave your salty, like sweaty boots outside.
Oh yeah, they'll chew on it.
The deer will come and chew on it, or literally like pick your boots up and walk away with them.
Yeah, they love chewing the salt out of leather.
So
the
like
sweat.
Yeah, so you would think like you could even, if his boots are sitting in his tent, would, interested deer come by and
yeah.
I don't know. So this is a very strange case. Again, the mental health aspect kind of throws me for a loop. If he's suffering from paranoia, anything could have happened.
I'm with you. I think that has a thing to do with it. I do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, 3 very interesting cases. I heard of the Patrick Whalen case. I was aware of that one. I had never heard of the 2 older ones. Those are new to me when I was researching this. It's just interesting thinking, like we were in the park at some of those spots that the first 2 people 100 years ago went missing.
Yeah.
And
it's
like we were just hiking around, and
I always wonder about people that go missing that no one is aware of.
Yeah.
There has to be, especially in some of those areas. Like somebody just went, no one knew they went.
That first case, 1924.
Yeah, everyone maybe thinks like, oh, they must have left town. Like, just no clue.
Just grab 100 people you pass on the trail in Glacier and just say, do you know who these 2 people are? Just say their names.
Yeah.
And I bet I would have known.
Yeah.
Not a single person would say, oh, these 2 people went missing 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Right here in this spot.
Yeah.
Like
they don't even know who did, if they did like last year, if the pictures aren't hung up.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder how many, like while you're hiking out there, have gone missing in areas you're in.
Well, I definitely think about it way more often now
so
since doing this show. It's like, all right, what am I going to run into out here, and how many people have dealt with it and did not make it out?
So to summarize, I would say case number 1, I'm saying foul play. Case number 2, water related. And case number 3, I think it has to do something with his paranoia. Something spooked him in the middle of the night, and he panicked and ran out of his tent to go see what it was. And then something happened. Maybe he got lost.
Yeah.
Or turned around or fell.
It's late in the year for that area.
Yeah. He was known for hiking later in the park than most people would. That came up in the stuff I was reading.
Just of the weather that we know about now.
Yeah.
I think it's either with you mental health or weather related.
And if he ran out without any of his gear and it started raining or it was raining, I mean,
yeah. Or blizzarding or snowing, like any of that, like that you would not last long.
No. So 3.
I'm with you. I don't have any off the deep end.
No.
There's not enough information for me to like work up a crazy theory.
Yeah, I mean the Patrick Whalen one, you could say like you could go off the deep end and say like it was Bigfoot or something, maybe.
Oh, all of them, aliens for all of them. There you go. Like there's the deep end. Like there's no deep end that's not anything that you wouldn't see on Prometheus Studios.
Yeah,
the ancient aliens creators.
Yeah.
So when they don't understand something, they just explain it away with aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah. Well, we can't explain it because it's just aliens.
So, hopefully you enjoyed another installment of National Park Cold Cases.
Yes.
This is a way for us to talk about parks we've never talked about and cases that are none of these cases we could actually do a full episode on, but a couple of them together we can then bring light to them.
Yeah, there's thousands of these. We got to be able to get to all of them before we die.
Yes.
In a park. So thanks again for tuning into our show. We appreciate all of you for listening and sharing Locations Unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You want to subscribe there for sure. Also, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, please visit our website or Facebook store to buy some cool swag. You'll look awesome in the wilderness with a Locations Unknown hat. Additionally, you can subscribe to our Patreon account on YouTube and on Apple subscriptions, where you'll have access to special events, additional shows for paid customers only. And lastly, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or simply taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we will see you all next time.